What's the difference between getting pre-qualified, and forgive me, I don't remember the technical term for this, but basically getting yourself to a status where you have everything ready for underwriting, uh, but you need the property. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
Yep.
basically you become an all cash buyer. What's the name for that, and what's the difference between those two?
So it's a full pre-approval, and what we will actually our lenders call it a TBD approval, where we can submit it all the way through to underwriting. Not only did you submit it to us, and I've reviewed everything, we can send it on and have it go all the way through underwriting, and the only thing we're waiting for is a property and an appraisal and a preliminary title report. So we can do that, and the big difference is a pre-qual is, hey, Dustin, you call me and we're on the phone. Okay, cool. How much money do you make? Okay, and your wife works and she makes X. Okay, and how much money do you guys have and where is it? Okay, there's this much in the 401k, this much in the checking account. All right, and then you guys have any debts? Okay, you have some student loans and a credit card and an auto payment. Okay, and that totals up to this on the monthly payment. And we run the back of the napkin and we go, okay, it looks like you should be fine. Um, there's a million potential pitfalls between just the back of the napkin numbers and actually seeing the documentation. And
Yeah.
through no fault of their own, buyers have no idea. I ended up thankfully not doing the loan. One of my realtors referred a guy over, and he thought he was just calling and interviewing lenders to see who was going to give the lowest interest rate. And he said, I got this rate from this lender, I got this rate from this lender. I said, okay, well, can you tell me, where are the down payment funds? And he's like, why are you asking me these questions? I just need to know what your rate is. I said, has anyone actually gone through this process? No, they know what my credit score is, and I told them I make this much money. I said, well, there's a lot more going into it than that. And long story short, the guy had the money, but the money was in like 17 different sources, some of them acceptable, some of them not. The deal ended up closing late. The lender who he did choose that had a really spectacular rate was thankfully pretty good and was able to pull it together at the last minute for him. But use that as an example that buyers have no idea the potential pitfalls in there. My job when I'm going through that pre-approval interview, pre-qual, we're going to go through some basics on the phone. My whole purpose with the first call is really just to answer your questions. I want to get some basic information of what your goals and objectives are, so I know what we're trying to pre-approve you for. I want to answer your questions, and then I want to discuss what the next steps are to get that full pre-approval. Now, when I'm analyzing the documentation and going through the full pre-approval, I'm looking at it like an underwriter. I want to say, what is any and every potential pitfall that we could have in this file, and make sure that we have answers or workarounds before we ever even get there. One of our sayings here at the office is we never close late, we never close ugly. And that requires doing things the right way, asking some additional questions on the front end, sometimes asking for a document or two that we may not need, but it prevents a ton of stress on the back end. Buying a home for most people is the biggest financial transaction that they'll ever be involved in, and the mortgage is the biggest debt they'll ever have. Because of that, there can be a ton of stress involved in that transaction. The best way for me to alleviate that stress for the borrower and for their realtor is to do our job on the front end, so that once I've gone through and analyzed and done a full pre-approval with all the documentation that we need, it's a non-event. The 30-day escrow or the 45-day escrow, it's a non-event. We're just connecting dots and checking boxes, not
And that's not
actually.
just something that you care about on the loan side, and that's not something that we would care about on the escrow side. It actually makes a big difference for the agents. Why does it make a big difference for the agents, and how does it help buyers to go to TBD approval?
Well, think about why it helps the agent. It helps the agent because what did I say one of their primary strengths are? For the most part, agents are people. They're out with you in their car showing them houses. So you have more of a relationship with your realtor than you do with me. Very few of our clients come into the office. Most of them handle everything over the phone. We did your refinance, never came into the office, did everything online. And that's very common even for people in our own town here. I might see 1 out of 10 clients. I bet if I went around the numbers, it's more like 1 out of 20. So when things get hairy or go sideways, it's oftentimes easier for the borrower to pick up the phone and talk to the realtor. So they're taking a ton of that stress and being asked to relieve the stress, solve problems that they didn't create. So it's very important for a realtor to have someone handling the loan that they know and trust, and can not put them into situations that are difficult for them to resolve. So the full TBD approval, we very rarely ever use it. What it comes down to is we get to a situation where I'm pretty sure that we can approve you, but not 100% sure. So I want an underwriter to put their stamp on it and go, yes, that income is accurate. The lady with the 401k that she's gonna be able to pull her money out of, we were actually working with her in mid 2019. And prior to that, her husband had two strange jobs. And calculating the income was really, really difficult to get an accurate number. I came up with 3 different ways that a reasonable person could calculate the income. One of them he qualified, 2 of them that he didn't. So we sent it to a couple of different lenders for a TBD approval, and one said, no, go pound sand, this guy doesn't qualify. And the other said, yeah, I agree with the way you did it. So that's the primary benefit for a really well qualified borrower. The kids I was talking to this morning that their parents are giving them the down payment, they have 800 credit scores. It's low debt to income. They have a big down payment coming in a gift from the parents. We don't need to send that off to an underwriter. Underwriters are very, very busy right now. So most of our lenders aren't even doing TBD approvals right now, just because they don't have the capacity. But we do have that ability when we have a weird situation that needs to be pre-flighted and run by an underwriter ahead of time.
Yeah, and what I've heard from listing agents as well is the further along you are in the lending process, the more comfortable they feel pitching you to their client. Because keep in mind, especially in highly competitive markets, which places like Orange County are, you're going to be in a multiple offer situation if you're buying. And there are many people here who come in all cash, which means they're not taking out a loan; they're paying all cash to buy the house. That's a safe bet in a lot of ways. If you're a listing agent, you're looking to close the deal, the market is uncertain, you don't know where things are going to go. I mean, we're all pretty confident that housing prices are going to stay pretty high and the market's going to remain healthy, but I mean, God only knows. So if you're a listing agent trying to get a commission, trying to sell the home so that you can, please your clients, you're going to present to them all of these different offers, and you're going to be saying, hey, look, this person over here, they're all cash. This person over here is pre-qualified. And there's this other person I've talked to their lender, I've talked to their real estate agent. Sounds like they're as good as all cash because they've basically done everything but getting the final stamp of approval from the underwriter. I feel very confidently about this person who's basically all cash and this person who is all cash. Now, Mr. Agent or no, Mr. Client, excuse me, Miss Client, you can decide who you like more. And there are, strategies that we could get into, at some other time about how to make your offer highly appealing. But the better and more sound your money looks, the more appealing you are to clients. Is that something you've experienced as well?
No, 1,000%. What I always like to tell people, when the market tanked between 2008, 2011, there weren't a whole lot of loans to do. I made my money by flipping houses. We flipped over 40 homes during that time frame. And what I can say is, as a seller of 40 homes, you start to get a different perspective on it. You see lots of offers come over. You see agents and loan officers that do a good and a very poor job of making their client's offer look better or worse than it actually is. So I always like to tell people there's really only 2 things that a seller cares about. The first is how much money they're going to net. So what that means is the top line doesn't matter. It matters at the end of the day, what do they walk away from escrow? So if I have 10 offers and they're all equally well qualified, I want the one that puts the most money in my pocket. But in the real world, very few offers are equal. So now I rank them and what's going to put the most in my pocket to the least. And then I go through and say, which is the most solid down to what I think is the least solid. So when I, as a seller, receive a package over from a realtor and it's a faxed copy of a contract, when most people haven't used faxes for 10 or 15 years, I start to rightfully or wrongfully wonder who I'm dealing with and what their technological capabilities are. That's a big portion of what we do on the real estate and mortgage side. Mm-hmm. And then when I see a pre-approval letter that looks like someone pulled out Microsoft Word and just typed up a letter, or worse yet, threw it in a typewriter, I have serious questions and reservations. So when we send a package over to our agents, we have a very clean, professional, detailed pre-approval letter. We put proof of your credit scores in there. We put the automated underwriting findings in there so that they can see exactly how strong the borrower is qualified. Most times, agents that are listing a property want proof of funds in there with the offer. So we'll put the proof of funds. So it's all in one clean PDF package, and the agent just has their pretty PDF of their DocuSign offer. and our pretty PDF of their approval. And we always ask that they copy us on the email over, which is always 99 times out of 100, these are presented to the listing agent. Copy us on that so that I have all of their contact info. I'm going to follow up immediately with an email and probably with a bomb video in there. And I'm going to follow up with a phone call. An agent that gets 10 offers on a property probably doesn't want to talk to me. That's why I put a video in there. I mean, sometimes they do. The good ones really do. They want to know and want to understand who they're going to be dealing with. That's one more element of reputational risk to them, is who are they dealing with on the other side? Is this going to close on time? Is it going to go the way they said it is? So we always want to reach out and try and have that communication. Even if they won't pick up the phone, they're going to get an email with a video of us walking through your qualifications, explaining why this will close on time exactly the way we've described it and set it up in the offer.
Yeah. See, so you and I just got pretty deep into the cogworks of how this all works behind the scenes, because for most buyers and sellers, they're not going to see this, right? All they understand is, oh, we submitted an offer. But no, it's actually, there's a lot more that goes into it. And there's a lot of conversation that happens behind the scenes, especially with the listing agent, which listing is the term we use in our industry to describe the real estate agent who's selling the home, or who specifically is representing the sellers of the home. So there's a lot that goes on between the listing agent and their sellers. And so Josh, what you described with the, nicely packaged PDF, the BombBomb video. BombBomb is just a tool that we use in our industry to basically put a video in an email so that you can click and quickly watch a video. That's all, that's all part of the presentation. That's all part of what allows one buyer to stand out over and above another. Something for you to keep in mind as you think about wanting to buy a home, and who you're hiring for your lender and who you're hiring for your real estate agent to represent you, because how they represent you matters a whole lot.